Okay, so my wife sent me this story this morning, and I was like, man, see, this is the reason why landlords sometimes go a little bit crazy. During COVID, there was a time where a landlord had pulled up on his tenant who wasn't paying for years and pulled up with the strap. Now, I'm not recommending that, but this story is crazy. This happened in DC. So,
a DC homeowner claiming an Airbnb guest has overstayed their welcome and will not leave. In this story, you'll only see on 7 News. We're digging into DC law, finding out there's not much that homeowner can do.
The alleged squatter originally got into the home through Airbnb, claiming that her apartment caught fire and it needed time to get repairs. Now that was back in February. Roshane Douglas says she didn't know she was opening her life up to a nightmare when she accepted Shadidra Romero's Airbnb reservation almost 10 months ago. That reservation ended March 29th after 32 days, and Romero hasn't paid another dime. But living in the home for over a month apparently lets her claim some form of tenant rights, and she refuses to let Roshane enter the property.
I never gave her any tenancy. I never gave her a lease.
Roshane tried everything, gave her a 30-day notice to vacate, called police, went to court, and even offered Romero $2,500 to sign a paper admitting she's not a tenant and to get out. Romero signed the document, but didn't budge.
November the 15th came and she told me, this no longer works for me. Do what you have to do. I'm not leaving.
this to me just underscores this is bad policy at the end of the day. DC has horrible policy, as a lot of states in this country have bad policy when it comes to landlord tenant rights, right? So I think that tenant rights were put into place in a lot of places so landlords wouldn't abuse the tenants and kick them out over little stupid things. So, but it's got to be balanced. We saw that during COVID. You had tenants who were just like, I'm not paying, and they'd stay in a place for 2 years because they know they can do it. Now, this woman, Shadidra, she says that I guess her apartment was on fire and they did some type of repair and she didn't go back. So DC law says that an Airbnb guest can potentially claim tenancy rights roughly after 30 days, requiring a formal court order for the eviction process, which can take months. This is a loophole. Now, this loophole is when guests are treated like tenants, right? So this happens when occupants establish residency without a formal lease, and that forces the owner to go through the DC court system for removal. So basically, in a nutshell, if you're renting an Airbnb to out to someone and someone decides, look, I ain't gonna leave after 30 days, I'm gonna tell you what I honestly think. I think that this woman, Shadidra, plans to squat in this Airbnb from the very beginning, if you ask me. People just think landlords just have money and they can afford to go through all this hell. People just always think that it's the tenant who is being abused, the tenant who is being taken advantage of, the tenant who is being mistreated, and a lot of times that's not the case. This is so crazy. I want to go over to the quote unquote tenant, the squatter. Let's see what the squatter has to say.
That she says she is a tenant, and she says after her 30-day Airbnb stay got extended, she says she fell in hard times, some unfortunate situations, said she lost a lot of money, and that's why she couldn't leave at the set date that she had with the homeowners. I sat down with an emotional Shadidra Romero inside Rochelle Douglas's home. Did you book the Airbnb with the intention of staying?
No, I did not book the Airbnb with the intent of staying.
So why are you still here?
Because after the repairs were done, the place still smelled like fire and there was water damage. So the water damage was more substantial than the fire damage.
You didn't go back to your apartment because it still smelled like smoke.
And water damage.
What makes you choose to stay here instead when the homeowner has made it clear she doesn't want you here, doesn't want to be a landlord? There's now no utilities on, there's wood boarded up, there's a sign outside saying she doesn't want you here. What's making you choose to stay?
So no, that didn't start until literally this month.
What didn't start?
The sign on the building or the utility, that wasn't something that happened prior to this point, prior to this month. Squatter is someone who has illegally entered the property without your notice and you never had an agreement with them.
It's also not just if the home's vacant, it's if you're there without the owner's permission.
No. A squatter is somebody who breaks into the home and decides to stay. A squatter is also somebody who decides they not gonna pay no more and they living in the property illegally. So she rented this Airbnb. My thought is this: I think that she rented the Airbnb, and a lot of times people, look, I don't know for sure, but people know sometimes where they can get over. So I think she rented the Airbnb with the intentions of deciding she's gonna stay if she wants to stay. But let's say this woman said, look, I know I'm in this Airbnb. I know you wanted me to leave. This is a short-term rental, but I'm just gonna pay you rent over the next so many odd months. Now, the landlord or the Airbnb owner, quote unquote, wouldn't have liked that because her property was not intended to be a traditional rental. But if this woman is staying there, at least if she was paying every month, maybe that would have been a little bit better. But for her to just stop paying since March and then claim that now she's not moving because of what the property owners put her through is crazy to me. So this is just bad policy. If you're doing a short-term rental, and here's the thing, like I told my wife when she sent me this story, Airbnb is not something you can just do everywhere. Airbnb has to be approved. So there's some places that limit the amount of Airbnbs. There's some places that have gotten rid of Airbnb. They will not allow Airbnb. Zoning can decide certain places that they don't want Airbnb in certain places. So if zoning can allow Airbnb to be in a place where a property owner can say, I'm going to use this property for short-term rental, if that's approved by zoning, there should also be laws in place where if you're going to do short-term rental, someone can't just come in and bogart you and force you into a long-term rental. So this is crazy. I think she should get out. And if she's facing hard times and she rented an Airbnb and she's facing hard times, it's not the Airbnb owner's responsibility for your life. Get out. If you can't afford it and you facing hard times, it does happen. Go to a shelter, go to family. But she knows that one, she can stay there now 10 months rent free. And she knows that it's going to take a few more months for this Airbnb owner to get her out. So what she's able to do in that situation is say, I'm going to take my hard times and put it on you. So I think that, again, this is just one of those situations that it'd be hard. I wouldn't want to be the Airbnb owner in this situation. I wake up every day really mad, and this is the type of things that brings out the savageness in people and makes people like, yo, I'm gonna go and burn my property down to get this person out. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Crucial Combo.